The trailer for Ahsoka just dropped, and it leaves fans asking the question, they got rid of the EU for this?
The following is a world-class Bullshitters exclusive.
Ahsoka is the newest Star Wars series coming to Disney+. Like all new Star Wars series on Disney+, the hype is through the roof. But will it suffer like all Star Wars series on Disney Plus inevitably do? Shows like The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, and Obi-Wan all stand out with impressive trailers that set the internet ablaze with speculation, but fizzle out fairly quickly. Ahsoka has a few problems that none of these series face. But before we get into that, today's video is brought to you by us here at shopwcbs.com. You know, it's summertime, it's getting hotter, but you have to wear something out in public, so why not wear something with style and class? World class, that is. So go to shopwcbs.com and get yourself an official WCBS t-shirt. There are dozens of choices designed by me, and all of our shirts are shipped and printed through Teespring, so you get their customer service, support, as well as the high quality each of their t-shirt carries. So go to shopwcbs.com right now to grab one of those, and since it's summer and it's so damn hot out, you might want something cool to drink. So why not drink that cool beverage out of an official WCBS pint glass? When you do, you'll become the fifth bullshitter. You can crack a cold one with us and spend your summer watching all the new world-class bullshitters content coming your way, including the return of good morning pop culture. So folks, you can click on those links below, get yourself an official WCBS piece of glassware, wear the t-shirt, and hang out with us all summer long. And now, back to the video. Star Wars began in 1977, and since then it's expanded to over 10 films, countless comic books, novels, video games, and most recently, TV shows. Star Wars started out on TV way back in 1978 with the much-beloved holiday special, which is actually no one's favorite part of Star Wars. From there, a few made-for-TV movies and cartoons were created, but Star Wars' first big hit on TV was The Clone Wars in 2008. The Clone Wars bridged the gap between episodes 2 and 3 and really opened up the world of the prequels for those who weren't necessarily fans of that trilogy. It introduced many new characters, but the standout was Ahsoka Tano, Anakin Skywalker's Padawan. While the show was a slow start, it eventually picked up momentum and became a big hit. In 2012, Disney purchased Lucasfilm for just over $4 billion, and the rest has been history. The first official project under Disney Star Wars banner was Star Wars Rebels. Rebels debuted in October of 2014 on Disney XD. That series is well regarded to a certain portion of the Star Wars audience, but therein lies the first problem for Ahsoka. Star Wars Rebels was for a much younger audience, and while that audience may love that show, a series like Ahsoka has to appeal to the broader fan base because of the cost. These Star Wars series cost roughly $15 million per episode. They all tend to in some way appeal to all eras of Star Wars fans. The Mandalorian is set post-Return of the Jedi and features a character who looks enough like Boba Fett to appeal to the original trilogy fans. Seeing stormtroopers, scout troopers, speeder bikes, Luke Skywalker, and more are all intentional. That's why the Book of Boba Fett exists. While terrible, that show was meant to appeal to the older crowd. Obi-Wan was meant to bring back the prequel trilogy fans, and Andor is for the new fans of the Disney Star Wars era, all while being set in the time of the original trilogy to entice the original fans back. Each one of these series exists to cater in some way to a specific portion of the audience, and Ahsoka is no different. It's for the Rebels fans, but is that a wise move? The Rebels fan base is the smallest group of Star Wars fans. Even the sequel trilogy has a broader reach. One could argue that Ahsoka is a Clone Wars character, therefore the audience will come back in droves to watch this show. But one look at this trailer and fans realized it's Season 5 of Rebels. Are there enough Rebels fans to watch this show? All Star Wars series are full of endless cameos and callbacks, but a majority of Star Wars fans have no connection to Rebels. So a show with a thin plot and a million callbacks will fall on deaf ears. If the show lacks substance, the nostalgia for Rebels won't be enough to save it. Much like the callbacks in the sequel trilogy weren't enough to mask the terrible plot. For a small group, it may work, but for general audiences, the ones that actually pay for streaming services instead of sailing the high seas, the show has to stand on its own. Websites like Vulture, who regularly make excuses for bad content, acknowledge that you need to know Rebels and tell the readers to just accept it. Well, that's a bold strategy, and it's not going to get a million new people to sign up and pre-watch 4 seasons of a kids show to get you ready for Ahsoka. The age of the callback replacing the plot is over. The plot of this series must be strong to succeed, and it needs to be able to do this on its own, and overcome another large hurdle that the series faces. The Star Wars EU is one of the most beloved parts of the Star Wars universe. The success of the Thrawn trilogy reignited interest in Star Wars and brought it back in the spotlight. In 2014, Lucasfilm announced that they would be killing the EU and creating their own canon. And now we have Ahsoka, which, much like Marvel's Secret Invasion or other series based on a run of comics, Star Wars is adapting a beloved story, but taking out the most beloved parts. As not so subtly mentioned in the Ahsoka trailer, this is Heir to the Empire 2.0. And as you all know, Heir to the Empire is the first of the much beloved and highly successful Thrawn trilogy. That series is credited for reigniting the Star Wars franchise and is beloved by millions. The series sold over 15 million copies, which means these books turned a lot of people into Star Wars fans. Changing one of the most beloved Star Wars stories in all of the EU will not go over well. While some will defend this show by saying Disney decanonized the EU, get over it, that's not going to be enough to convince millions to accept it. This would be like if Marvel canceled their comic books because the MCU existed. Imagine if right in the middle of whatever story was taking place in 2017, Spider-Man just ended, dying on the way to his home planet, all because Spider-Man Homecoming was released. That's essentially what happened here. Are you a fan of Mara Jade? Well, she'll never get another new story. Just a reboot, or they'll take her and blend her with another character, much like they did with Jason Solo and replace him with Kylo Ren. Jason Solo was the son of Han and Leia, that eventually turned to the dark side and became Darth Caedus. IGN listed Jason as 17 of their top 100 Star Wars heroes, saying that he had a more profound effect than any other Solo child in the Star Wars setting. Jesse Schneiden, also writing for IGN, listed Darth Caedus as number 5 in a reader-inspired top Star Wars villains list, calling his defining moment of villainy his murder of Mara Jade. Yugo.com listed Jason as their top Star Wars Expanded Universe character, calling him one of the most fearsome and most tragic villains in the Star Wars universe. According to a poll taken during the height of the sequel trilogy, Kylo Ren ranked lower in popularity than Jar Jar Binks. Let that sink in. A few on the internet may champion Ahmed Best after learning about his struggles, but Jar Jar Binks is still one of the most disliked characters in Star Wars history, and Kylo Ren ranked lower than him. Disney Star Wars just takes these things that exist and reuses them elsewhere. They can't create anything new, and that's what the Ahsoka series is. Can a show that requires 11 seasons of animation catch-up truly be successful? The countless Rebels callbacks will excite the audience that grew up with Rebels, but what about the rest? The Rebels audience is vocal on social media, but as we've always known, likes and retweets don't equal money, or in this case, watch hours. The broad approach that Lucasfilm took with The Mandalorian was successful because it called back to something loved and created something new from that. That formula only works for a short period of time, as the overall appeal of these shows dies quickly. According to info released earlier this year, viewership in The Mandalorian, the Star Wars-themed original series on Disney Plus, continues to fade. The Season 3 finale on April 19th generated 662,000 US households during the initial window, according to new data from Samba TV, which tracks viewership intel across the 48 million connected televisions worldwide. That compared with the 1.1 million US homes that streamed The Mandalorian Season 2 finale during the initial window. Season 2 premiere saw 970,000 US households, while the Season 3 debut saw just 722,000. Samba found that viewership of the season finale dropped by nearly half when compared to last season's finale, suggesting that there appears to be limited audience growth potential for Star Wars content. Indeed, while 991,000 US homes streamed the premiere of Obi-Wan Kenobi, the weekly tally dropped to 803,000 for just the last episode. Another 412,000 households watched the Andor Season 1 premiere, a tally that declined to 261,000 8 episodes later. And finally, just 73,000 homes watched The Bad Batch, Season 2 premiere climbing to 77,000 8 episodes later for the finale, but let's compare that to the 239,000 domestic households that watched the Season 1 premiere episode. That doesn't bode well for any Star Wars series on Disney+. The last hurdle that this show faces is that it looks like another Girls Get It Done series. Fans online were quick to notice the Force's female tropes that bled into the Disney Star Wars era here in Ahsoka. Every piece of media from Disney Star Wars is full of this forced agenda, and Ahsoka will take the cake. Of course, it's too early to tell the effects this will take on the series, but if we compare that to the Marvel equivalent, She-Hulk, we'll see a not-so-bright future for this series, as She-Hulk had the lowest premiere of any MCU show up to that point. Of course, the fans are misogynist, and it has nothing to do with the trailers or promotional material, right? Don't blame the content, blame the fans. Expect a lot of that with Ahsoka. Ahsoka is a big gamble, and one that probably won't pay off for Lucasfilm. It's replacing the most beloved moments of the defunct Star Wars EU, which will anger a lot of longtime fans, and rightly so. Nobody wanted it erased. It was a great way to keep Star Wars alive. Star Wars keeps declining in viewership, and Lucasfilm as a whole produces unwanted content that turns people off. Add to the fact that a lot of required viewing is necessary for Dave Filoni's wet dream to make sense, and to quote Sweet Brown,
"Ain't nobody got time for that."
So what do you guys think of the Ahsoka trailer? Are you excited for the series? Do you not care? Let me know down in the comments below. Visually, it looks kind of off. It's trying to take cartoon characters and make them real, and I don't call it the Uncanny Valley because that's not what it is, but it looks kind of like cosplay if you ask me, which isn't very exciting. I also, again, I don't have any emotional connection to Rebels. I've never watched the show. I just know it's the show where they make the lightsabers spin fast enough to become helicopter blades. It was a little kid's show. I know all of Star Wars is supposed to appeal to all ages, but that was the one that was just too kiddified for me. just so happens to be the first one on Disney. However, I really did like the Clone Wars. It's one of my favorite parts of Star Wars overall, but even my interest in Clone Wars isn't enough to get me to watch this show. And I don't think I'm alone, but I want to know what you guys think. 1, are you excited for this series? 2, does your anger over the EU being removed from canonization affect your interest in this show? And 3, do you think it's going to be another The Force is Female show? It's in everything that is Star Wars. Hell, it's in the sequel trilogy with Rey. Jyn Erso acts like that in Rogue One. You have Phoebe Waller-Bridge play that stupid robot in Solo: A Star Wars Story. The Mandalorian gets upstaged. The one woman that everybody seemed to like, Cara Dune, got taken out of the series for some of the silliest reasons. And well, people aren't going to forget about that. They haven't forgotten about that. And again, I know Ahsoka is well loved from the Clone Wars series, but what version is Rosario Dawson playing? I like her as an actress quite a bit, but she's like a very boring, stern, stoic Ahsoka Tano. She's not funny or quippy or sharp like the other version, and that's what it is. That's why I don't really care about Ahsoka anymore. She just kinda stands around being knowing and wise like Yoda or Obi-Wan Kenobi. That wasn't the character. Why do they always do this with characters that are one way? Well, they've matured, they've aged. Of course they've matured and aged, but they don't get boring in the process. That's what a lot of this is. The characters become boring. Just because you can swing around 2 white lightsabers doesn't replace the fact that your defining character trait has been changed because you want to represent something else. No. The stoic Jedi is the boring Jedi. Sometimes you gotta have a little humor, or at least a little fire, and I don't really sense that here. I don't really sense anything exciting from this series. And like every other Disney Plus Star Wars show, they eventually get shit, no matter how good the opening is. So folks, I want to know what you think about that and a whole lot more. Be sure to check out our other videos and subscribe to WCBS. We're on our way to 200K. We're just about to hit 190,000, so thank you to whoever becomes our 190,000th subscriber. That's exciting, that's a big number. And then thank you again to whoever becomes our 200,000th subscriber. And folks, we'll have a big celebration when we hit that number at the end of this month. We'll have all sorts of other wonderful things to celebrate the channel growth, and we'll continue to make awesome content. So if you want to come hang out and celebrate with us, come to Horror Hound in Indianapolis and Indiana. We'll be there at the Horror Hound convention, just like the name implies. So come out, hang out with us, get your information on Wokebusters, see some exciting things that we have planned for the upcoming 2024 year. Remember folks, we're hashtag building a better bullshitters, and as you can see, it's happening every single day. So thank you for watching. I'll be back next time with more, but in the meantime, be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other. Thanks for watching today's video. Yes, it's over, but don't cry because there's more, a lot more from World Class Bullshitters. And there's only one way to get it. Hit that subscribe button below. When you do that, you'll get notifications and updates from World Class Bullshitters every time we go live. Basically, you won't miss anything. And if there's one thing I hate, it's FOMO. But the thing most people hate more than FOMO is fear of missing out on World Class Bullshitters, because there's just some things you can't undo. So folks, do yourselves a favor and never miss anything from World Class Bullshitters. One last thing before you go, hit the thumbs up button. Not for our egos, no, they're big enough as this, but it does help us fight the algorithm here, and well, it's man versus machine, and that's the real fight. But if that's not your battle, that's okay. There's one last way you can help WCBS, and that's going over to shopwcbs.com, picking up a t-shirt, a beer glass, a sweatshirt, a poster, all sorts of ways to back WCBS. The difference between us and other YouTube channels is I'm the artist that makes all this stuff, so if you enjoy art beyond t-shirts, you can even read our comic books. We got it all. We're called the epitome of pop culture for a reason, and no, again, it's not for our egos. So folks, make sure you're involved with every aspect of World Class Bullshitters, not just for us, but do it for yourself. We're making the change in entertainment everybody out there wants to see. And a special thank you goes out to all of our wonderful patrons who make this content possible. Go to patreon.com/worldclassbs to get involved and help out the channel.